Good morning to everybody. Good to see you here today. We appreciate all of our visitors being with us. What we've been doing over the last few weeks is looking at creation and evolution. First lesson, we looked at the difference in the teachings of creation and evolution, and in that the fossil record supports creation and not evolution. Then we looked at the scientific laws, the laws of thermodynamics, the law of biogenesis, and the law of cause and effect. And we saw that those scientific laws support creationism and not evolution. Last week we looked at design in the universe. And we saw that design demands a designer. And that design in the universe supports creation and not evolution. Next week, I thought I was just going to have one more lesson, but no, I'm going to have one more. Next week, we're going to look at evolutionary hoaxes. This morning, what we want to do is look and see the age of the earth. How old is the earth? Does the age of the earth support creationism, or does it support evolution? Is the earth billions of years old? 4.5 billion about is what the evolutionists claim. Or is the earth only thousands of years old? Did man evolve from apes? And I'm going to leave that up there for a little bit. Or was everything created? Evolution tells us that the earth is about 45 billion years old and the universe is around 20 to 30 billion years old. But when we went and looked at some of the things that we looked at in design, they may have to up the age of the universe even more. Creationists tell us the earth and the universe must be less than 10,000 years old. Which one is right? Both of them cannot be correct. One of the greatest controversies in the world today is evolution and creation. Either the evolutionist is right or the creationist is right. There is no other way that we can be here, either through evolution or creation. Now, there are those who believe in theistic evolution, in the fact that God created the world and used evolution to bring everything about. But if either evolution or creation is proven to be right or wrong, the theistic evolutionist has no leg to stand on. Because one of those is right or wrong, then his cannot be right. All right, again, atheistic evolution teaches the universe to be 20 to 30 billion years of age. It all started out of a little blob of hydrogen. Hydrogen's all that there was. The earth is 4.5 billion years old. Mankind has been here, or his earliest ancestor has been here about 4 million years. Dr. George Wald of Harvard stated this in his work, The Origin of Life in Scientific American. He wrote it in 1954. He said, time is in fact the hero of the plot. The time with which we have to deal is of the order of 2 billion years. So we've expanded it from then, that time. He continues to say, what we regard as impossible on the basis of human experience is meaningless here. Given so much time, the impossible becomes possible, the possible becomes probable, and the probable virtually certain. One has only to wait. Time itself performs the miracles. That's what the evolutionist has to have, is time. If the evolutionist doesn't have time, then evolution couldn't happen. So I want to look at the scientific dating systems. You know, there are all those scientific dating systems out there that say that the earth is billions of years old. The universe is multiple billions of years old. Well, what are they? The first one we want to look at is carbon-14. Carbon-14 was developed in the late 1940s by a man named Willard F. Libby. He was an American chemist. Dr. Libby declared, and I've got the book back here if you want to read it. He declared radiocarbon dating can only be used to date things that were once alive. You can't date dirt with it. You can't date a rock with it. So only things that were once alive. On page 8 of his book, Radiocarbon Dating, Dr. Libby said, and I put those little yellow ifs in there because These have to be true for the next statement to be true. If the cosmic radiation has remained at its present intensity of 20 to 30,000 years, and if the carbon reservoir has not changed appreciably in this time, then there exists at the present time a complete balance between the rate of disintegration and of radiocarbon atoms and the rate of assimilation of new radiocarbon atoms for all material in this life cycle. In other words, make it a little simpler. All things while we are alive, we assimilate radiocarbon atoms in the things that we eat. He wrote, in other words, during the lifetime of this plant or animal, the radiocarbon assimilated that we ingest from food will just balance the radiocarbon disintegrating in the tissues. In other words, we bring in so much, that same amount goes out, is what he's trying to say. When death occurs, however, the assimilation process is halted. We stop eating, we stop getting radiocarbon in. And only the disintegration process remains. All right, in other words, we are supposed to have this set amount of radiocarbon in us when we die, and if we calculate how long it takes for radiocarbon to break down, when we come to whatever amount we find, we just get it, plug in our formula, come back, and we see that that's supposedly how old that person was, or plant, whatever. In other words, they assume. That is a very key word. Whenever you're in a biology class and your instructor up there, your professor is telling you that the earth and the universe are all these billion years old, you ask him, how do you know that? And they say, well, the scientific dating systems prove that. And you say, well, what are the assumptions that these dating systems are based on? Every dating system is based on assumptions, except one. And we'll learn what that one is in a little while. But anyway, they assume that every living thing must have had the same amount of radiocarbon in their body at death, and that the radiocarbon left in the body at the time of the discovery is made is what's left from that original amount. So, you wonder, does a human and a flea have the same amount of radiocarbon in their body? Page 10, Dr. Libby says, it is obvious that we must be careful in selecting samples to choose materials that contain the original carbon atoms present at the time death occurred. In other words, samples must not have been preserved with organic materials containing carbon of age different from that of the sample. Care must also be taken that chemical changes have not led to the replacement of the carbon atoms. You know what that is? That's a fact you can't know. You cannot know that any way at all. Matter of fact, on page 6 of his book, Dr. Libby gave a table of carbon inventory which shows the amount of carbon in different areas of our earth and in the atmosphere. In the ocean, it says 7.25 grams of carbon per cubic centimeter. So if something's in the ocean, it's not going to work. Could have changed. Dissolved organic. You see the numbers there. Something could have changed in the amount of carbon. What about our biosphere? It's got carbon in it. What about our atmosphere? It's got carbon in it. So everything has been influenced by carbon. Everything has been. So the sample that you may have picked up may have got some from the ocean, from the water, from the biosphere, from the atmosphere. It may have lost more. You can't tell. You cannot tell. Frederick Johnson wrote chapter 7 of the book Radiocarbon Dating. And he admitted there were some problems with the dating systems and compared that to verified archaeological dates. He wrote, and this is on page 101, the radiocarbon method gives promise it will be a tool useful in shortening the process of establishing the time when many events in human history took place. However, if present conclusions are correct, the ordering of these events cannot be accomplished by the radiocarbon method alone. The results must be checked and revised. This need of careful cross-checking leads to a collaboration between the several fields of archaeology, like your dating of your pottery, your tree ring analysis, your artifacts, and try getting a tree over 10,000 years old. Try to find that one. But really and truly dispense with radiocarbon dating because it has nothing at all to do with the evolution creation controversy because the dates don't go back far enough. So let's look at another scientific dating system that will give us an old Earth. It's called radiometric dating. Radiometric dating basically is three different ones here. Potassium breaking down to argon, rubidium breaking down to strontium, and uranium breaking down to lead. And uranium breaking down to lead was discovered first. Now the system works kind of like this. In a laboratory, you measure the breakdown decay rate. You find out how long it takes for half of the uranium to break down to lead. That's what you call a half-life. So whenever you get that, you plug it all in and determine what your date is. And you cannot date things that were once alive with that. You have to date rocks and dirt with it. So in other words, you